and welcome to this session of the Future of AI podcast. Today, I'm so honored to have here Davis Harris. He is the CEO and founder of a company, a startup called Liaison AI. It's a fascinating company, and what Davis does is also amazing. Davis, thank you so much for being here with us.
Happy to be here. Jordy, you've always been really helpful and supportive of what we're trying to do here and in general AI. So really, really am happy to be here and talk about AI.
Awesome. Wonderful. So maybe for our audience, you could kind of introduce yourself, tell your story and what brought you to starting Liaison.
Yeah, of course. So really, I come from a sales background. And I worked at a freight brokerage, a startup freight brokerage, moved to Austin, Texas, back in 2016, right after college. That freight brokerage is called Arrive Logistics. And I think they have, one of, if not the fastest growing freight brokerage of all time. And so that was purely a inside sales job. And freight brokerage is highly competitive. It started with C.H. Robinson back in the early 1900s, maybe even before. And because of its competitive nature, the companies that are ultimately successful have a culture of hustle and grind. But for those of you that don't know what a freight brokerage is, I certainly did not know what it was coming out of college. It's basically just a middleman, broker, right? They don't own any 18-wheelers. They just have customers that need things shipped, and they have trucking companies that they partner with, and so they connect the person that needs something shipped with the trucking company, and they have a fee that they charge, and that's how they make money. So but there just wasn't too much, like there was no real efficiency gains there relative to the rest of the market. The competitors of other freight brokerages, everyone, it's maybe 2 or 3 percentage points more price effective going with one or the other brokerage. Now, if in certain cases, there certainly can be significant efficiency gains, allowing carriers, trucking companies to get backhauls, which ultimately that would be a dead lost cost if they didn't haul anything. And a freight brokerage is really good at making up for the lost expenses for trucking companies. So and also if it's a backhaul, they're going to be able to give a lot better price to the shipper, whoever needs the material hauled. So but at the end of the day, it's marginal as far as the efficiency gain for either the and I just wanted to have be more useful. I wanted to sell a product or be involved with a product that creates more efficiency. And so technology is certainly in this day and time the fastest and easiest way to get efficiencies. And so that's why I moved to Austin, was to be involved in technology. And so I was introduced to this AI chatbot back in 2019. And I just saw how much value, this was before GPT, generative AI, even had a thing. And I saw how much value it could create, just because that's the nature of customer support. I saw the most value in the customer support use case, and that's what we focus on. And so I just decided that what I would do is I would take the same model as Arrive
Mhm.
Logistics, a freight brokerage, and bring that to technology, and also bring the culture of grind culture to selling technology. Um, and I didn't realize someone had actually, I had met a few guys that I've got to give them credit. They were actually the ones who introduced and brought the idea of being able to partner with a software company, and that they would do that, and I could just be the middleman. I didn't really think about that when I was wanting to get into
So you
technology.
took all your experience in sales with a totally different industry. You say, hey, I'm going to move to technology. AI seems to be a great place and specific space that is called conversational AI, even before ChatGPT. And you build a business around commercializing AI, which is fascinates me because probably, and all my entrepreneur friends as well, that's precisely where they struggle more. Is okay, we have this technology we believe is great, but um, not until some customers start paying for it, right? So is that Liaison is this company that basically brings that value in putting together technologies with customers that need the technology?
That is exactly right. I mean, the thing, well, not necessarily AI. That I mean, AI certainly was a big, impactful part of where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in something emerging, wanted to be in something that once again had drove the most efficiency. And AI moving forward is going to drive more efficiency than um, any technology we've had in the last, I don't know, you would probably know better than I would, but it's been a while, maybe since like a calculator or, Excel. It's kind of hard to find analogies. I've spent a lot of time trying to think about analogies of AI and the technology, conversational AI chatbots, and how it could relate to, maybe a tractor or Excel, or, these technologies, whether it be like our current technology or a
Yeah,
tractor,
absolutely.
car.
So humans first starting to use domestic animals to power their muscle, right? As a human being, we are weak compared to a horse, right? So we
Yeah,
start kind of domesticating horses to make the hard work for us and running at incredible speeds. And then with the Industrial Revolution, we created machines that actually are hundreds of times more powerful than the animals, right? That was the Industrial Revolution. But then what about our brain? How can we do to help us even move faster in intellectual capacities? And that was computing, starting from a calculator all the way to the latest large language model is all about using machines to do stuff that otherwise we have to do it with our brain. So that frees our brain to do other things even more creative.
that's right.
I believe so. That's fascinating.
I mean, exactly. I mean, there is, it's just a machine, right? And machine learning, whatever. It's just a machine that ultimately helps us be more efficient, and allows us to focus on things that are more strategic and creative. You know, yeah.
Absolutely.
Being
Now,
someone that had to being a farmer back in the day was not a fun job, you know. It certainly wasn't, and
nope, absolutely.
it's just
Absolutely. It's
repetitive.
big, big, big progress.
Yeah.
So if now you started in 2019, you said, so now it's 2024. It's been a while, and you've been building this business with incredible success. So you've been able to sell this complex technology to amazing enterprises. So the question here from me and for the audience is, what is the key to success? How do you do to sell and to be so successful?
Well, I would like to backtrack just one thing I wanted to add to, why I started this. And the other thing is that in college, a good friend of mine, Aaron Rodgers, and he was one of the folks that actually came over to Arrive Logistics. I was employee like 125, and now they're like 1,500 employees. And he was one of the few guys that came over from LSU that ended up working there. And we all really excelled. But he and I actually took a spring break, our senior year spring break, instead of going to the beach or doing whatever, we entered this competition that LSU held. And it was basically, you create a business, or if you already had a business plan, and you present it in front of a board. And the idea was that whoever had the best presentation and the best business, they would get, few $1,000s and put that towards going into their business. And so we didn't really know what we were going to do when we sat down that start of spring break. And we just thought about problems, areas that could be better. And no one likes customer having to deal or call customer service. I mean, it's not, no one enjoys that. No one's like, oh, great, I get to call the bank today, or I get to call customer support. It's never fun. You're waiting on hold. A lot of times you're not able to, clearly understand people. I mean, it's just horrible. Getting forwarded to different, I mean, everyone knows you don't, it goes without saying.
But when you call, there's a situation already that gets you at least slightly irritated. So that's your starting point with customer support always.
Yeah, you're pushing buttons trying to get to the right person or right department, and it's automated sometimes, and it's just even worse than most of the time. And so this problem is like, we're just like, all right, cool. So let's figure this problem out. Like let's dedicate our time and focus to a problem that would make everyone's life better. And so we wrote a business plan. It was a super cool idea. This was well before I knew about AI and really AI chatbot automation. This was in like 2016 or so. So it was kind of like it's too much to get into today, but ultimately it was kind of, at this time Uber had just come out, and we tried to put an Uber model to customer support agents, right? So a individual like you or I, if we were experts on, say we were really good at connecting a Bose speaker to your phone via Bluetooth, we go on this app that we had built. You take a quiz, you get certified that you can support, you're knowledgeable enough to
Hmm.
answer questions on this. And once you did that, you could just sit at your house on your couch. And if someone called in for support on Bose, then you could help them with that issue. And, it would be a local person, hopefully, that you clearly understand and relate to. Like if you're calling in from Texas, then it would try to connect you with someone from Texas, and you could chat with them. And if you had another issue down the road, that you could use that same person to help you. But like for us, clearly Bluetooth's normal, but for maybe a elder person, they might not have any idea how to do Bluetooth. So something very simple for someone like us might be really hard for someone else, and you know, you could get customer
Yeah,
support that way.
yeah,
And
absolutely, absolutely.
so anyway, that's kind of where all of it started, and that's where the issue is, kind of idea, I guess, seed was planted in my head. And then literally 5 6 years later, I was introduced to AI chatbots. And I mean, it was pretty much like I had also started driving Teslas. And I realized with that, with the automated, driving, that this AI technology was going to be insanely impactful. If you can teach a car to drive and understand roads and signals and read other cars, I mean, I was just like, wow, that was really a wake up call for me. And so when I was introduced to AI chatbots, I was like, okay, well, right now, it's still, I'm very, older chatbots weren't as useful, quite annoying actually. But I realized that the technology in the next 5 to 10 years was going to explode and ultimately be more useful than a human for certain tasks, for the easy stuff. So, uh, yeah, I immediately jumped all over it.
So what I read here is like, to be successful selling any product, you need to be passionate about the product itself, which is I can read from you says like, wow, that's creating an impact. I've been a customer support, kind of this Uber model, which by the way, I know companies that have been working this kind of models of having an aggregation of individuals in customer support. But your passion when you talk about AI, how can be used, I believe that's part of that success. Would you agree on that?
Well, that's a great point, and I would agree. I'm glad you're able to get that out of that. But yes, the very most important thing in any profession is you need to have an underlying passion for what you're doing. You know, and I was not passionate about freight and logistics because it wasn't technology, which I really wanted to be involved in, and then it wasn't that much that useful, wasn't that groundbreaking. um, so I was very passionate, as you can tell, about helping solve a problem and technology. And so the core of being successful in your job and your profession and other things too is having a purpose and meaning,
Yeah,
fulfillment, right? I was
absolutely.
not fulfilled at all by doing freight brokerage. And ultimately after and I made we were making far too much money to be in our young 20s. Um, but the money, I realized, as someone that always is really wanted to be an entrepreneur since a very young age, a lot of that was tied to being fiscally stable. And I realized then that, wow, money is not making me happy. And I lost the passion for it, and my numbers flattened out. And yeah, I was fired. And which was good. I think that the individual that fired me saw that this would never freight would never fulfill me, and he kind of, I guess, pushed me out of the door when I couldn't make the decision for myself because
Totally.
at a certain
At the
point when you're
same
making
time, mhm.
at a certain
Yeah. So
point when you're making good money, it's a double-edged sword, it you don't want to give it up, but at the same time
it
it's not a
you
long-term.
become addicted to that position, even if not it's not making you happy, but you say, hey, I have to keep on doing this. I think that was I would say a great event, right? You get pushed out and out of your comfort zone and say, hey, now I'm going to do something that you feel passionate about. But what I know from you, and I've working with many sales personnel, account executives, VP of sales in many countries as CEO. But I've seen you when you sell is discipline. So yes, you feel this passion about AI, the technology, the value that you can bring to your customers. But all that is nothing without good discipline and hard work. And that's something that I believe some people don't quite understand about sales. Some say, well, sales just go around and, kind of just blah, 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 without actually knowing what you talk about. But I've seen you applying real discipline to the sales activity and making sure you have a number of calls and a number of prospects and a number of, so it's a numbers game. So on one hand there's all this passion, on the other hand I've seen you being very professional and very strict when applying this discipline. What do you think about that?
I mean, absolutely. And any salesperson will tell you I mean, and professionalism in general and working out or just your work, discipline, your diet. Discipline's incredibly important for, I think, building self-esteem. It really helps me, right? You know, uh, but in sales especially, right? Like you've got to have consistency. You've got to make those calls every day. You've got to send those emails every single day. Um, you know, if you're at, if your goal is 150 or 200 calls a day, then you might be at 190. And those last 10 calls, you're like, oh, I don't really want to do them. But those last 10 calls, you might set that meeting or you might find that customer. So it is definitely discipline. And also when you practice that discipline, especially, well, really, I guess in anything, but sales too, and especially with what I've done, um, you you learn a lot, right? You learn from your failures, you learn from experience, you learn from the data you get, right? The more calls you make, the more conversations you have, the more different people you speak with, position wise, you learn um, very quickly what people what words really resonate with people, what positions in an organization are typically going to be the decision maker, and your pitch. I mean, gosh, from where I started to where I am now, uh, you know, the the really the conversations have changed to more conversations just like this, you know, asking questions. Where do you see X so and so CTO of X company? Where do you see AI having the biggest immediate impact? And having an open conversation. And then if they if we share the same sentiment towards it, then sure, I'll share some information with you. But I get that a lot, right? Hey, is this a sales call? And it's like, not really. I really just want your opinion and understand where your head's at here, because that's really useful, right? These conversations are so useful, a thought leadership. And when I started Liaison, there was none, very little. Like now you can go and find podcasts about digital customer support and generative AI and all these things. But back in the day, I was just having to have conversations with developers just like you, be on those sales calls, listen, learn. Um, there's some reports about AI chatbots and whatnot, but so this thought leadership is really important to educate not only the customers and end users, but also the people that ultimately the organizations that are to implement them and how it can help them. So and how to implement them and the use cases and all these things. So what we're doing is I'm happy. I really am happy to do this.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Now, on the other hand, you have created this excellence at selling AI, but ultimately you also need to have an amazing network of partners, right? Of technologies, of companies that actually provide that technology, so you can fill that gap between buyers and sellers. So my question is, when you are exploring different partners and you choose, okay, I believe that partner is the one that I need to grow and to build a liaison. What are the kind of features or characteristics, or what do you like to see in a partner for you and the partner to be successful?
Well, I can touch on two things here. The first part is kind of going back to a previous question, and that was kind of like why you started it and how you got the idea. And another problem with I guess software developers, is that typically, just like you, they're founded by technical developers, right? Like they're the technical heads, and they should be, right? Because that's your product. That's where you need 100% focus on. And that was the other thing on sales, is what makes you successful. Focus. And then that's a lot of things, right? But focus is incredibly important. And so in an organization, the ultimate strategic direction and focus comes from the very top, comes from the founder, comes from the CEO. And so if you have a technical CEO that built their product that they're going to sell, then that is going to be their focus, and that's going to trickle down throughout the whole organization. And that's where they're going to invest funds and time. And so filling the gap, having an organization that is strictly focused all the way from the top, everything, all their efforts, all their time is strictly selling a product, learning how to sell it, learning how to have the conversations, learning who to call. That was, I saw as a huge opportunity. And the second part of your question was, or the second part of my answer was, how do I pick a good partner, a good developer? And that was really the first part of starting the business before I did anything. Was focus on building those partnerships, finding who was a good developer. And that's another reason why I saw a good opportunity for Liaison, is because it is a new industry. There is lots of education that needs to happen for people to adopt this. There's very few people that at the time, especially, that really were experts on it. So I saw opportunity there. And I guess finding a partner for a company, for an end customer, was really difficult too, because there are just thousands of these developers that popped up that are startups most of the time. And you Google best chatbot, and you don't, there's thousands of them. And then, Forrester has their reports, and all these large organizations that do consulting. And those are mostly, at least a portion.
Some call these analysts sort of pay to play, right?
Exactly. So at least half of those are based on who's given the most money to them to put their name on it. And what's so funny is I've actually gotten stuff now that, this Forbes 30 under 30 and whatever those deals are. It's like, Oh, this is how you get on that. They call you and they're, hey, we'll put you on here. We want to write this article about you, but you need to pay for it. I don't want that.
Sponsor or something, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, everybody has a business, and everybody has to eat at the end of the day, right? So
So
that's amazing. Mhm.
so how did I find a partner? I'm taking a really long-winded approach to most of your questions, but I guess that's the natural salesperson in me. So how do I find a partner? I started calling a ton of people. I had to Google and just find a bunch of developers, and ultimately, wrote down 20, 30 developers, got on their website, called them. Well, most of the time I actually just would fill out their demo, like their book a demo, or maybe they'll have a partnerships page that you can fill out. And just have a conversation with them. And at that time, I was highly uneducated about it all. But that was a really good way for me to understand and educate myself. But just ask them questions. And I had a list of questions that I'd ask to vet them out, and ultimately kind of narrowed it down to maybe 5 or 6 developers. Inventa's one of them. And yeah, just based on their product, their integrations, the leadership, the how old the organization was, the funding, any way you would analyze an organization, just kind of look at their product. And initially, the idea was to partner with different organizations, different developers, all chatbots, but with different price points, different focuses on industry verticals, because a chatbot can literally be used by anyone with customer support. So, whether it be healthcare, banking, software, e-commerce, I mean, you name it. So different higher education. So I kind of tried to partner with different developers, different industry verticals, different price points, different turnkey integrations, and ultimately realized, I guess, probably about 12 months ago, that I really needed to focus on I need to get more focus. You ask, hey, well, how do you successful at sales? And I said, focus. Well, I thought that focusing on chatbots alone would be fine, but I was wrong. I learned quickly that once I really started focusing on sales, as outside of building all the other stuff in a business that it takes, finding partners, website, legal, accounting, all that. I realized that I needed to hone in on maybe one partner, learn their product inside out, and learn their ideal customer, and focus on that industry. So ended up getting rid of the other partners and going with one partner and focusing on mostly the SaaS industry, uh, and e-commerce too. But the sales we've done thus far has been mostly in the SaaS industry.
That's amazing. So, and then it's November 2022, and ChatGPT explodes. It's like, oh my God. So in my particular case, uh, I was um, kind of selling my business. I was busy with all that, and it took me a few weeks until I say, okay, let's now I have some time to see what is this all about large language model. When I started working with that, it was like, oh my God, that's a big that's a step up. It's not a linear evolution. That one technology actually was a breakthrough, was a change. It is my opinion. It is like artificial general intelligence. No, we are not there. But compared to what we had just couple of weeks prior ChatGPT got popular, and was a big change. So now you know ChatGPT, of course, and all the technology, GPT-4 and Claude, and oh my God, now everybody's in this space. So my question is, how this has impacted your customers, the industry? What are you in these conversations that you have daily with customers? How do they feel about this kind of technology? Are they buying it? Are they kind of more, well, we're going to go more, we're going to wait, or we're going to be more conservative on that, or we have to jump all the way into generative AI? What do you see in the market? That you have a direct connection with
Right.
folks that take decisions every day on that.
Yeah, I'm kind of like the tip of the spear on the tip of the spear, right? Like tip of the spear being very new technology, and then I'm the first contact with a potential customer or buyer of the software. So I certainly have collected a lot and had a lot of conversations with various organizations, and know about what their interests are, what their use cases are, but to touch on the GPT part, like you said, right? Like I when I was doing my research on who to partner with, I saw OpenAI, and OpenAI was leading. They had this, a lot of it conversational AI. They were leading it, but they weren't really they weren't really a developer yet. They didn't, like, you couldn't partner with them. They didn't have a product per se. Um, but and I knew that Elon Musk had founded it, and that's obviously a good sign that there's some usefulness there. So I had actually reached out to maybe to you and to a couple other partners when I had a few, and I was like, "Hey, what is the deal with this open AI? Like, we need to figure out what the deal is, and try to utilize their technology." And at that time, everyone was just focused on declarative, including Inventa, and no one. It was crazy, but no one really knew what the deal was. I mean, you could get on a waiting list, but I was so focused building a business that unfortunately I didn't do more research. Either way, it wouldn't have really mattered because we're just selling it. But you know, and you said when GPT came out, it was, or GPT-4, GPT 3.5. When it came out, it was this huge shift, and I wasn't well, none of the partners I had really were, it took months for developers to really figure out how to integrate it in and how to use it. And even, a lot of developers didn't get on the waiting list until after it already came out. And so, um, but I had to make a decision on my messaging and how I was going to, would I continue to, like your pitch, right? In the words you use, your content, your copy. What do you use? How do you what catches someone's eye? What perks someone's interest? And I had to make the conscious decision probably in March of last year of, all right, we're going to shift our wording to GPT and OpenAI, because that ultimately was where the technology was going, and also that certainly captured people's interest. So anyway, yeah, it's been a wild transition into
I
GPT,
guess. Yeah.
but
On one hand, I guess that generates interest. The customers want to know, tell me about GPT. On the other hand, what you want is close deals. It's like, hey, let's build a project. But what I found when I was in this is, hey, customers were not sure. It's like, is that work? Is it safe? There's like, on one hand, yes, impressive. On the other hand, there are all this buzz about hallucinations, and what about privacy and legality. So there's a lot of questions that arose among the customers, right?
Yeah, as far as to answer your question and add to what what you're saying is there's always going to be skepticism of new products and technology, no matter what it is. I mean, back in the day when credit cards first came out, it's like no, everyone was scared to use them. And it was crazy.
That's right.
When computers first came out, this is more related to I guess here's the other thing that customers aren't sure of is the use case, how to use it, how to integrate it. And that's more like not necessarily scared of it, but that's more of like how to use it, kind of like when Steve Jobs first created computers. um he was making those cold calls, and people were just like, how do I use this? Cool, great, but where's the use? And so GPT is also kind of like that. But and security wise, security is run by a data privacy agreement. And you probably know much more than I on this, but that's any, I mean, yeah, definitely technology. That's mostly, I guess, but it's run off a legal agreement, and it's very detailed on what you can share, what you can't share. Just like any legal agreement, you can alter it and customize it to what your customer wants. Um, there's security protocols, Europe, the US, that organizations have to follow, that GPT and these AI chatbots adhere to. Um, and it's like, just because it's a new technology, just because it's AI, doesn't necessarily mean they are able to capture more data. That's definitely one of the big pluses for customer support anyway, because the data you can capture ultimately helps you understand what your customers' biggest issues are. And that's definitely one of the more overlooked use cases or value propositions for AI chatbots. But so you are able to collect, I guess, more data and unique data because it's natural language. You're able to analyze the sentiment of a customer based on their words, not necessarily because they fill out a survey, which not many people do. Uh, so you are able to capture more data, but you're not capturing any more data than you would, like, than Google does when you're clicking links, or
That's
Instagram
right.
does when they're sending you custom, personalized ads. I mean, you're worried about your data. What about, what about TikTok? How much data they're collecting? So,
That's right.
it really, realistically, it's just another rebuttal or objection
Yeah.
to
So you think
say,
that GPT, transformer-based technologies, Claude, Vertex, all these technologies are here to stay. They're not going away. They're not. There's is not a this thing is going to, and that kind of takes me to the next question, which is the future, right? Well, where do you think it's going to happen? What kind of this technology is going to take us, and what is going to be the impact on businesses and the industry? What do you think? I mean, knowing that nobody knows the future, but now's your time to give your big prediction that's gonna make you famous in 1 or 5 years from now.
well, that's something I really thought about a lot. Anyone that's in AI or technology is been asked this question. Um, you know, is AI dangerous? How's it going? Is there going to be massive job losses? And for the longest time, I didn't have an answer. But I was actually listening to a podcast, and it sparked my ultimate philosophy, and I was able to kind of get a really good, I guess, philosophy on where it's going to go and what's it going to take us. And ultimately, I think it's going to do very similar things to what all technology has done for us. You know, it's going to give us ease of access to information. Overall, just improve the quality of our lives. And that's technology broadly, but AI as well. It's like look at our time, the time we live in. There's more. Let's just look at something that gives humans a lot of pleasure. Movies, or yeah, movies, books. Those are easy ones, right? So what is the iPhone been able to do for movies? Or also movies, social media content, right? Like, how many people live on TikTok, and how many laughs do you get a day from seeing a funny video on Instagram? Or how many educational posts do you see about whatever you're interested in on Instagram or social media, or the internet for that matter, just a regular article? It's like the iPhone, number one, has allowed people to film things at very low cost. Back in the day, when videos weren't a thing, then couldn't get any content. Back in the
Right.
day,
Right.
before the printing press, finding a book, you might need to go to Rome. Um, so these technologies allow us to affordably bring things to humans that improve the quality of our life. Tractors allow us to grow food in abundance, good food. Um, like I said, iPhones allow us to video our friends, whatever we want, allow us to create new content, give us new content. So ultimately, I think it's going to, like GPT, for perfect example. Let's bring this back to the current time. Like I was telling you, I write, and most of what I write is it's a journal, and it's just written down as fast as I possibly can. Punctuation is existent, but maybe in the sense of a period every now and then, or multiple periods. But very little structure, certainly misspelled words. For the longest time, I was like, I've probably hundreds of thousands of words at this point. The biggest thing for me to eventually write a book or memoir, whatever you want to call it, it was like, gosh, I'm gonna have to go through these thousands or millions of words, and punctuate it and proofread it. And that's just not something I want to do. So that was probably the number one biggest obstacle for me to ever release a book of any sort. But now with GPT, I can copy and paste every word, post it in there. It's going to punctuate it. It's going to
Let's
correct it.
fix it for me.
And
Totally.
no one wants to do that. Like, that's the last thing I want to do. I am able to focus on the material, the writing, the experience. If at that moment, and in the future, like in the future, I would spend how many hundreds of hours proofreading it? Well, instead of proofreading it for hundreds of hours, maybe I can proofread it for 5 hours, 10 hours, and then use the other time I have to write more content.
Yep.
And how many people have had that obstacle? How many more books can be released? I mean, so ultimately, I think it's going
Absolutely.
to improve the and then as far as like job losses go, people are concerned about job losses, but job losses, it's not a zero-sum game here. It's not like the world has had 1,000 jobs from the onset of humanity. No, new products create new needs, which create new jobs. So, the invention of YouTube, or, like, not necessarily go that route with it. Basically, like, what are the jobs that you never thought would be a thing that are a
Yeah.
thing,
If you look
right?
at, I don't know, 200 years ago, most of humans would work in agriculture. Now it's like less than 1%. And so 90% or 99% of the jobs were lost. But you wouldn't say that now everybody's jobless, right? It's just a future that's hard to imagine. But eventually, tools make us more productive, make our lives easier, and therefore help us to progress. Listen, Davis, I would love to have you longer here. It's always a pleasure talking to you. I learn from you. I'm respectful with your time. There's one thing that I would like to ask you is how our audience could find you. What's the best way to contact you?
Um, if I don't call them first,
Ah, that's the best answer I never got here.
um, if I don't call them first, I mean, we have a website, liaisonai.com, certainly on LinkedIn. Uh, yeah, I mean, just
And
the
all
regular,
and all these links will be on the description, by the way.
yeah.
Uh, all
You
right,
know,
Davis.
do you have, I just wanted to kind of, I guess, finish off the AI philosophy of, there's a couple of other things that I do think are important, and there are negatives, right? So, like, look at our negatives right now. Like, all these technologies, like, I guess, streaming websites, or social media, socially, physically. So socially speaking, Instagram, these Instagram models, they can edit their body, or even if they're not editing their body, they edit the light, or even if they're just beautiful and it's a natural photo, but they might make um, some girls that aren't quite as beautiful feel bad about themselves, and then maybe they feel bad about themselves, so they put themselves on a ridiculous diet or something of that nature, and that hurts them physically. Or technology, Netflix, or these games, computer games, physically speaking, might make people sit inside all day and not do as much activity. Therefore, their physical health might not be as it would have been if they had to go out and ride a bike or dig a hole. um, but I just think that overall, the if you look at technology and how it's progressed, and ultimately your goal, your question to yourself should be, are you happy? Are you content, or better yet, happy with your life right now, as far as how much technology we have compared to previous generations, right? Like, would you want to live in a previous generation without this technology? And an easy way to look at it is directly, like with your own family, right? So, would you want to live in your grandparents' time? That's easy to look at.
That's a big question. Who exactly thinks that they live now a worse life than their grandparents did? That's the big question. And the answer is Nobody. So there's been an overall progress, and that progress thanks to technology, it's thanks to the industry, and thanks to the human inventivity that has brought us here. And more things. Of course, there are also things that could perceive as negative. I totally agree with you. But there's always been, right? And then you evolve and you get used to them and move forward. Absolutely right.
And you can keep going with that, like maybe you do want to live in your grandparents' time. Okay, well, what about their grandparents? You want to live in their time? Okay, maybe you do. Maybe you like something about that specific, maybe World War I, and you're really into wars, or you're really into old phones. But you can keep going back, and at a certain point you're like, okay, I think I'm pretty happy with how I am right now, and we have more tech advancements than ever in history. So ultimately, that's my philosophy on AI.
Originally from Spain, so not my grandparents, my parents actually lived through the Spanish Civil War, plus 40 years afterwards of dictatorship. I certainly would have liked to be back then. I can tell you that. They survived. That's good. So it allowed us to be here, but that were really very, very hard times. Listen, Davis, thank you so much for your time. It's been great talking to you.
It really has. Thank you very much, Jordy. I really do appreciate it. And thank you for the invitation. I think this is really important. Thank you for doing what you're doing for the industry and for thought leadership, but also thank you for the invitation, and thanks for all the support you've given me throughout our time working together.
And thank you to all the audience for being here and listening to Davis Harris, really expert in how to sell AI. So if you want to be successful with your business, Davis is the person to talk to. Really, really experienced. Okay, everybody, see you on the next episode. Meanwhile, have a very good time. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.